think once a real competitor Twitch, again, Mixer was a competitor Twitch, but they shut that down. But there's going to Twitch is a gaming site where you stream games. There are competitors to Twitch, like the Xbox service, where you can stream on the Xbox console. But Twitch doesn't really have many competitors besides the Xbox service that is there. Well, again, you can only use that if you have an Xbox. But Twitch removes blind playthrough after the 5 people on Twitter complained and whined again. And CNN and making the 2 articles, Forbes making the 2 articles, Kotaku making the 2 articles, saying how awful it is, this is actually Kotaku there. Again, they gave Doki Doki Wizard Club Game of the Year, saying it was the best and most massive game of the year. They said Doki Doki Wizard Club was better than Breath of the Wild, which is absolutely sad that they'll give that piece of garbage better than Breath of the Wild. But we're not going to talk about Doki Doki Wizard Club. So, Twitch has attacked as well streamers to categorize the broadcasts. The tags are tied to the Twitch, so one very increasingly prominent regulation system, but very recently, blind playthrough was one of those official tags. Now it is not. Blind playthrough is meant to apply first time runs through games. Frequently it implicates that streamers didn't want to chat spoiling key elements and backseat games. Again, that's the whole point of blind playthrough. But again, Twitter, blind playthrough means you're going there through blind. You don't know what's going to happen, okay? Like when you see a movie for the first time, it's actually the blind watch. Again, no one really says that because most people usually watch a movie for the first time. But a game is called a blind playthrough because you're playing through a game without knowing anything about it. You don't know anything about the game, anything about the story or anything. You avoid spoilers all those times, and it's considered a blind playthrough. You're playing through it the first time run through a game. Again, you could use it for it could just be called first time run, but of course everybody's Twitter, 5 people on Twitter. Oh, the term is so evil. We don't like it. It has to be removed. And of course, Twitter's like, okay, Twitter, you know what? Everybody else, they don't matter. Only the 5 people on Twitter. Only the great site, Twitter, of course, and CNN and all the media. They go to win. That's how it is every single time. Nobody's gonna be, again, as well. Those players undiscovered or first. If it's your first, blind people then is to turn your monitor off, and that's what it means. That not what it means, but yep. That mean again. This is what Twitter. This is the logic of Twitter. Okay, same thing with the word Pokemon used to call there used to be a word that there also used to be a term for Pokemon that you call HM slave. Well, they completely removed that term probably because of the 5 people on Twitter and they're complaining. Because that's what we have to do now. We have to do everything for Twitter. The thing is that it's kind of no brainer. For Facebook, only avoids of another dragons up to aviary swingers again. Only Twitter. Only Twitter wants that. With Twitch, they basically do what Twitter says. They're basically Twitter 2.0. So wouldn't be surprised if people don't use Twitch anymore. Twitch is gonna be a site that's gonna die. Once there's an actual competitor to Twitch, just like Twitter, Twitter is now dying because they have an actual competitor. Once Twitch has an actual competitor, that site is gonna Twitch is gonna die. Okay, it's gonna die when they actually have an actual competitor to compete with. And I wouldn't be surprised if someone is gonna make a competitor to Twitch. Same thing with all these other sites. Facebook, Facebook is just Facebook, but Facebook is mostly used by people outside of America now. Not many people in America use Facebook anymore. Mostly used in India and, Japan. No, I don't think it's Japan. Mostly used in India and Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Philippines. Mostly those countries. And yep, there we go. There we go. And again, this is because Twitter wants them gone. Twitter actually, on his analogy, the term blind people have been used in a negative conversation. It just means first time people. But of course, Twitter, they have to remove it. Twitter wants it gone, and again, they feel like it's a term reserved for disabled people. Like, really? Okay, most people are going to disagree, but again, because Twitter and the media has so much power, they win anyways. So that's basically it. There's actually comments on here too. I think I saw one of them. But yep, that's basically it. Goodbye.